On July 20th, 1969 at 9:56 p.m. Houston time, American astronaut Neil Armstrong sets foot on the moon, bringing to an end an unprecedented scientific race between the USSR and the United States.
People around the world were glued to the images, showing Neil Armstrong stepping off of the ladder of the lunar module and taking the first steps on the lunar surface.
The moon landing makes the Apollo space program the most ambitious in history. It had cost nearly $140 billion in today's money, and more than 400,000 people were involved. It would be impossible to reproduce such a project on this scale today. Even at the time, there was no certainty that America would succeed in beating the Russians to the moon.
That was virtually impossible to do in the time frame that we had.
NASA's budget is currently $20 billion compared to that $60 billion back then.
Since the end of the Apollo program, mankind has never returned to the moon. Only memories remain of this phenomenal adventure, along with video footage much degraded over time.
The original pictures are really hard to tell what's going on. If you can see Neil's foot coming down in that picture, you're a better man than I am.
But now, using new technology, we can recreate the key steps of this extraordinary space program to relive the Apollo story as it has never been seen before. Astronauts, flight directors, and engineers share their memories of both the triumphs and the tragedies during the most intense years of this space race.
We were startled by screams coming from the crew, and we listened to our crew die.
This is a story that almost finished before it began, with the tragic deaths of the first Apollo astronauts, and nearly ended as dramatically with an explosion on Apollo 13.
My instant feeling was just a sick feeling in the pit of my stomach because I knew we had lost the landing.
We're going to get these guys back. Failure is not an option.
But in July 1969, Apollo 11 had a date with destiny. It's the bet made by a president and an entire country. July 18, 1969, 55,000 miles from the moon. American astronauts Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong exit through the upper hatch of the Apollo 11 command module to go inspect the lunar module, the Eagle.
The lunar module is the most beautiful machine ever engineered and built. Some of the things that made the LEM such a challenge was that it had to be a very powerful, very sturdy, very robust machine, but it couldn't weigh anything at all.
2 days later, the incredible American spacecraft must attempt the first ever manned lunar landing in history. The mood is tense. The 23-foot-high lunar model has never been fully tested in real conditions. And at Mission Control in Houston, many were preparing for the worst.
I did not think we were going to make it on this mission. I figured we would land probably the fourth attempt.